Let's move on here tonight. On the Detroit front tonight, Emergency Manager Kevin Orr apologized for the dumb and lazy comment he made in an interview. Plus, Oakland County is threatening to opt out of the millage if the art from the DIA is sold as part of Detroit's bankruptcy proceedings. Let's talk first about Kevin Orr's apology this week. Some people are now saying it was too late because it was like a week after the fact. Are you never going to please everyone?
You certainly aren't, and he should stop trying. He's not a politician. He's got a job to do. He should just shrug his shoulders and get back to work, and maybe, again, take a little lower profile.
Did that comment need to be apologized for, Stephen?
Well, I mean, people took a lot of offense at it. It was not artfully stated, although it was something he said in the editorial board at the Free Press with a slightly less edgy tone to it. He's been saying that for a long time. I'm not sure why everyone got exercised about it now, except that he said it at the Wall Street Journal editorial board, and it's sort of like, I can talk about my brother in the house, but if you talk about my brother out on the street corner, we're going to have a fight. So there's a little bit of that going on. The truth is, the sum total of what he said, it's very hard to argue, and there's no point in arguing it, right? The truth is, he's here because of those things, and he's here to fix what we did not smartly or fastidiously fix ourselves. So why don't we focus on that instead of getting all worked up about what Kevin Orr said?
A couple of things.
Bill Johnson had a great blog on our website a week or two ago detailing the number of times in the past that the city was presented proposals to fix the pension system, to make adjustments that would keep us from this crisis point, and it was rejected every time. I'm not sure Kevin Orr was all that wrong.
How's Kevin Orr doing?
I think, pretty soon we're going to have to start looking at his job and sort of bifurcating the job he's doing. In terms of restructuring the debt and getting us through the bankruptcy, I think, he deserves high marks for that so far. The jury's still out on whether he can do what he's trying to do. There's some real big hurdles in front of him, but at least he has a plan. I think the reorganization of city government is going to be a much bigger challenge for him, and he's already struggling to bring in the right people, get them assigned to the right tasks, and start making real change. And that's, I'm not saying that as a knock necessarily on him. I just think
I was just going to say that's a superhuman job in terms of what he's trying to do with the debt, and then focusing on restructuring.
Talent attraction's tough, but I mean, if you look at, he brought in the new police chief, and I think it's hard to argue with the job
that's a good
doing. I think he's, given the fact he's only been here since April,
May. Been 5, 6 months.
I mean, he's not quite that long. I mean, he's off to a pretty good start. I think what you're going to see is a lot of pieces put in place, and then things happen, all at once.
Let me ask you real quick about Judge Gerald Rosen, who's now going to be the mediator in bankruptcy. What kind of impact is that going to have?
Well, I mean, I think number one, it brings more resources to this case. I mean, there's no question this is the biggest bankruptcy case to go through that courthouse or probably any other, at least on the Chapter 9 side. Steve Rhodes is a very good bankruptcy judge with a great reputation. He needs help. There's no way he's going to be able to handle this on his own. Jerry Rosen is also a very experienced judge, understands some of the issues, and will be able to mediate these things. The other key here, I think, for people is recognizing that, Jerry Rosen, Steve Rhodes, these are members of this community. They understand these issues, not just from a legal perspective, but they get the community angle of it. They understand the personal side of it, and that's going to work, I think, to our benefit, just to have somebody there who gets that.
So I was going to say, is that a home field advantage, Noam?
Well, they're invested in this community. They understand this community. They live here. They're going to live here long after this case is done. That doesn't mean they're not going to do what they're required to do under the law, but I think they bring perhaps a different view than a judge based out of Cincinnati might have.
What did you think of the move this week in Oakland County, basicly saying, hey, if any of the art is sold from the DIA in the bankruptcy proceedings, we're going to pull the millage?
Well, I don't think it's helpful. I mean, I understand that.
Is it understandable?
Well, they're just interpreting what the millage language said, which is that the museum has to abide by the Museum Association rules, which says you cannot sell art for money. I still think that this is a pretty premature conversation. I don't think anybody intends to sell the art, but you've got to rationalize the asset. You've got to put some value on it and explain why you aren't going to sell art. And I think it would help, frankly, if the DIA were coming up with other kinds of revenue opportunities or thinking about those to try to put something else on the table so people stop talking about selling the art. But to have Oakland County sort of threaten that at this point is not really productive.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the DA and Kevyn Orr has got to be allowed to work this out. There may be a rational, reasonable solution here that allows some asset sales without destroying the museum. And I don't think Oakland County needs to draw a hard line and say, if you sell Howdy Doody, we're done, we're out of it. You know, I think there may be a reasonable solution here, and everybody should wait and see what that's going to look like.
All right, and we'll be watching. You know, there's a weird political comeback story tonight. You may remember the ousted mayor of Troy, Janice Daniels. She made homophobic comments, called the city charter a whimsical document, and got recalled last November. She was actually on our show. Well, she's back, and she's running for city council in Troy. So, biggest political comeback story of the year. How do you get recalled as the mayor, tossed out of office, and then signed back up again to run for office in the city, the same Troy?
You know,
Culture of great second acts.
it's
right?
the Anthony Weiner syndrome. I think, you know, if you can do it, she can. Marion Barry, good Lord, there's
People
a
don't go away,
history of this.
right?
So it's Anthony Weiner's the
win.
largest comeback, and then Janice Daniels. I don't know. I guess in a political sense, what would spur someone to do that after being so soundly?
Yeah, I don't know what's
I
going
mean,
through
she's
her
got
mind.
supporters in that community. She's probably being urged to run. Who knows? I mean, you're running for council. You don't need as broad a base as you do when you're running for mayor.
I think she
You
ought to
may
move
get
to
in.
Detroit and run for council.
Well, you know.
Probably be council president.
I know Troy has now become a political hotbed of intrigue. All right, it's time now for headlines. Okay, so some of the other stories that caught our attention this week. The Woodward Dream Cruise. Right now, if you're watching the show right now, know that hundreds of thousands of people are lining Woodward Avenue for the single largest car event, I
This
think.
would be a good thing to do while you're not running up and down Woodward, isn't it? Avoiding the traffic jam, watching our show.
Watching our
You know,
show.
This is a great event, and I'm still a bit frustrated with this event. It's sort of grassroots, and that's the beauty of it. But it costs these communities money. You got 1 million people coming in to be part of this. How about 50,000 cars coming in to roll up and down Woodward?
People from
all
around the
over.
world, they ship their
Yes,
cars here
it's
so
a
they can
major
participate.
event. It should be Detroit's Mardi Gras. I've said that for years, and we don't
No
make,
beads.
we don't make any money off of it. And there's got to be a way to better organize this. To make it a revenue producer, to make sure the business community benefits instead of saying, oh my God, this is just a money loser for us. An event of this size and of this sort of color and excitement ought to be a revenue producer. It ought to be the equivalent of any other city's major festival.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is this started as this sort of
It was a fundraiser.
ad hoc
Yeah.
thingy, I mean, and it's grown into a major event, but it doesn't have major event planning and promotion and backing and government involvement. I don't know that you ever worked that out, though, because if you ever talk to the folks who run this thing, they're very proprietary about this.
Yeah, and they have coalitions from the cities that are all up
and they
along.
don't
They would
wanna
like to
mess
make
with
some
it.
money. And Tony Michael's Parade Company has sort of taken over the running of it. They're slowly making progress. I think they're going to push this ahead. But it needs to be a regional event where for these 3, 4, 5 days, you've got things happening out here at the Greenfield Village, maybe downtown, different car shows, clubs, celebrating our automotive history. And not just this one day
Yeah, it's crazy
traffic jam.
crazy not to bring the energy that you see in downtown Detroit into the Dream Cruise somehow. I don't understand why.
All right, so maybe I'll see you guys cruising when I'm cruising with my minivan down Woodward. No minivans allowed on Woodward this weekend. And that's going to do it for MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us. Check out MiWeek.org. Catch up on the shows or share the shows with your friends on Facebook and on Twitter. For all of us at Detroit Public TV, I'm Christy McDonald. Make sure you come back and see us next Friday for MiWeek. Take care. Have a great weekend.